is going on, all you wonderful APlusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again to give you guys another Kamen Rider Saber review. This time, of course, I'm going to be taking a look at Kamen Rider Saber, episode number 39. Another really good episode, but very different from the episodes that we've gotten the last 3 or 4 weeks. Because, you know, like I've kind of been mentioning, the last 3 or 4 episodes we've been getting all feel incredibly epic in their own sense. They all felt like they could have been their own season finales, if that makes sense. And with this episode, it's a lot different. It's definitely a nice, calmer episode in my opinion. Even though we do get some good action scenes in this episode, it does feel like plot-wise and character development-wise, it's really more just they're there to show us what we already know and give us a little breather in the long run. And again, that's not a bad thing. What we get out of that is a really nice kind of calming episode. And so I'm excited to talk about it and break it down for you guys. So starting with the very beginning, Tassel is finally back, and he is reunited with the fairy that we of course found out is actually Kento's dad. It's actually like really funny because I feel like that fairy I've just been kind of ignoring most of the time. Like I don't think I brought it up one single time because I didn't think it would be significant to the plot. So it is kind of funny, you know, that big plot element that I've been ignoring since like episode 1. It's like, oh nope, that's actually kind of important. So that was pretty funny to think about. But yeah, he is back, and both him and Master Logos are currently looking for Luna, but she is kind of appeared in the middle of the woods, and that's kind of like the plot that goes on in the episode, but like in the back of the episode, because it doesn't really get brought up again until the very end of the episode. So I feel like this is something that they're gonna explore a little bit more in maybe some of the next upcoming episodes, but they really wanted to let you know that this was going to be a plot element though. So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see how this plays out. Hopefully Tassel finds her before Master Logos, but we'll have to wait and see. We then get a really sweet scene, kind of similar to when you have Rintaro trying to apologize to the rest of the writers, and you know, kind of the same thing happens here. We get that with Kento, but you know, once again, the other writers just completely welcome him back in with open arms, no questions asked, or not necessarily no questions asked, but they already know what his motivation was, so they don't really see him as a traitor at all. They see him doing what he was trying to do because he thought it was the only way to save the world. But now he has seen that the future isn't set in stone and that there are ways that they could change it by working together. So again, a really sweet scene to my opinion. We then get Rika and her brother, whose name I constantly forget, and the two of them have a mission. And at first, what they do is they infiltrate the South Pole base, which made me think that, oh my gosh, the two of them are going to try to take down Master Logos themselves. What a couple of morons. Because I mean, you know, you look at how powerful Master Logos is. He took down the entire like crew of riders, and that was all of them working against him. So I don't know why, I didn't know why when watching this episode he thought that, you know, things would turn out differently, but of course that wasn't actually their plan, as we find out. So Master Logos of course kicks their ass, or more specifically kicks the brother's ass, until Rika shows up to help them escape. And we find out that, yeah, no, they weren't ever trying to stop Master Logos. They were trying to retrieve the Wonder Ride books that they originally stole for him, and they return it to Tomah, but unfortunately they aren't quite ready to join him yet, which I do find the reasoning to be kind of lame. They say it's because he betrayed the Sword of Logos, but I mean, he knows that he only betrayed them because they knew that there is corruption within the Sword of Logos, and they were correct about that. So it did kind of annoy me, the fact that, you know, he's still refusing to join Tomah. I mean, it didn't bother me that he's not joining him. It was just that his reasoning for not joining him was really stupid. Now, of course, I feel like that's done on purpose. I feel like they just want us to realize that this character is extremely stubborn, and they're doing a good job of it. But again, it's not the fact that he doesn't join them. It's more of the reason behind it. But yeah, that was kind of like the one thing I thought was kind of weird in the episode. But then we cut to Kento, who is trying once again to convince Ren to come back with him, but Ren surprisingly refuses. And I say surprisingly because, you know, you think like the one person that could have gotten him to change his mind and come back to the Sword of Logos was Kento, since Kento was the one he mostly looked up to the entire time. But unfortunately now he's kind of moved past that. He's realized that he's constantly, you know, spent his whole time as a writer kind of looking up to others rather than trying to be his own person. So he's trying to figure out himself. He's basically trying to find himself, and that's why he kind of turns Kento down. It does end in a very sweet moment though, with him you know, saying that he is really glad that Kento's all right, and that was kind of how the scene ended. So I did think it was a pretty genuinely pretty sweet moment between the two of them. But then of course we get Rintaro and Touma that go after Master Logos themselves, and you know, I thought this was going to end pretty badly, again for the same reason I thought when the two siblings went after him it was going to end badly, but here it ends a lot differently. Now first I got to talk about this battle, because you know, the fight, we get a couple stages of this fight. At first it's like outdoors, and it's Touma and Rintaro taking down Master Logos along with like a previous monster that we had seen on the show earlier, and that fight alone was pretty cool. You know, it's the traditional wire fu tokusatsu battle, but then it turns into this really awesome CGI battle in front of a green screen, where some of it is the characters fighting in front of a green screen, the other parts of it are completely animated, and much like in the previous episode, the CG here is really impressive. Like, it looks really good, and I'm wondering if part of that is maybe even though they didn't start working, you know, they work on, from what I understand with the scheduling, it's like one episode a week, but I am wondering how much time in advance they work on with the CG battles in this, with the special effects. If they work on those like maybe towards the beginning of the show's production, therefore they have more time to polish it, or maybe they've just gotten really good at doing really of doing a lot of CG really fast or something like that. But either way, it was a really cool battle, and it actually leads to them overpowering Master Logos. And you know, you get Tomah, who's trying to get Master Logos to fight on their side, which I'm kind of surprised that he's even attempting that. At the very beginning, for example, when they show up in Master Logos' throne, they're once again trying to convince him, you know, to end this, or they're trying to reason with him, and Master Logos is about to give what we thought was a tragic backstory until he stops halfway through and laughs and says, no, I'm taking over the world because I'm bored. And we get a little more backstory of Master Logos, because we find out that he doesn't age, or at least he doesn't age as fast as humans does. So he's been around for over 1,000 years, kind of protecting the humans for the same reasons, etc. But one day he just kind of got bored of it, and that's why he wants to take over the world, because he's bored. And I mean, not gonna lie, it is kind of an interesting concept. I mean, this guy does think of himself above humans, so seeing him, you know, turning his back on humanity because he's simply bored with protecting them, honestly, that kind of, I could see a higher being having that kind of mentality. That makes sense to me. Obviously, I don't agree with it. I don't think just because you think you're above other people means that you can do whatever you want, but I totally see where that motivation may come from certain supervillains. So it does definitely explain a lot about Master Logos' like overall character and motivation, really. Unfortunately, before Tomah can stop him, he does retreat thanks to Storios, and we kind of end the episode with the two siblings not necessarily joining them, but at least with them all kind of being on the same page. Now, you have the brother who's trying to act super cool and trying not to let his guard down, not to let himself be emotionally vulnerable, if that makes sense. But knowing this show, I think we all know that's not going to last very long. We even kind of see it with Rika here, because we see a little bit of a goofy side to her that we have never seen with her in the series before. So I did think that was really cool. So it would be awesome if the two of them kind of stuck around with the Sword of Logos a lot more, and because of this we ended up seeing a side of both of them that we've never really seen. Like we already see with Rika, so I'd be curious if we see it with her brother as the show goes on. But yeah, guys, overall, this was a really good episode. Just a couple of nitpicks. One of the biggest nitpicks I do have to kind of give is when it comes to the throne room, the cropping with the characters in front of the green screen has started to look really bad. I mean, I feel like what happens is they don't actually have a really big green screen room to film in, because I've noticed now that a lot of times when you have two of the characters of this or two different characters within that room, they're cropped in separately. Like there was a scene where Storios was kind of standing on the side and Master Logos walks past him, and it's so clear that the two actors aren't actually there together. So I do think that the throne room scene looks a little weird at times. I think maybe what they should have done is used a mixture of kind of an actual set with the CG or with the green screen, kind of like they do with a lot more sci-fi films nowadays. But maybe it was a budgetary thing and they couldn't afford it. And it is weird that the throne room has been around for quite some time, and I'm only bringing up how bad it looks now. But in this episode, it really stood out compared to the episodes that came before it. But again, that's just really a nitpick, because I think the rest of the episode was really nice. And again, it was a very laid back episode, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I think it definitely worked for what this episode was trying to accomplish. But yeah, overall, guys, I really enjoyed this episode. Definitely recommend checking it out. But of course, at the end of the day, these are just my APlus opinions. We here at APlus Opinions always want to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. But guys, above all, just remember to keep it APlus.